Many of you are probably thinking right now, which is the right iPad Pro for me? Is it 11 inches? Is it 12.9? Which one should you get and why? I went for the 11-inch iPad Pro, and the reason for that is because the 11-inch iPad Pro has pretty much everything I want. Now, if we look at power, the power behind this machine is identical to that of the 12.9. So if you're looking to get the best quality and the most powerful iPad Pro right now available, it's definitely going to be either the 11-inch or the 12.9, but they're both equally as powerful. And that's really important to keep in mind. So then we come down to size, purely size, and think about the reason why you need an iPad Pro in your life. I got an iPad Pro in my life for two reasons. One, I need to meet with clients to be able to present to them what it is that we do. We offer many digital services, and often this has to be presented to them in a visual way. The best way to do that, without a doubt, is on a screen, but it's not always practical or all that attractive or that great use of space to be able to have with me in front of the client, the laptop, the MacBook Pro 13-inch Retina that I have. Sometimes it's much better just to get out the iPad, put on the PDF, and discuss it with the customer or discuss it with the client. It's also a great way for me to meet with and talk to the team. And when I talk to the team and sit down with them, I can also show them things on the iPad. It's also infinitely lighter. It's a lot lighter to carry this around than it is to carry around a MacBook Pro everywhere that I go. Which means you need to kind of think about size. If I sit down and I'm using my iPad to watch a video, or if I'm using it even just to, I don't know, kind of go through my emails, it's a lot easier to do that with this in my hand than it is to have a 12.9 inch. Now, what's really, really important that you do is you also think about, is this going to be your absolute primary principal device? If the answer is yes, then perhaps a 12.9 inch is the right size for you. If the answer is no, because you have an iMac, you have a MacBook Pro, you have a MacBook Air, or even maybe a PC, which is your primary device, and this becomes a secondary device that you carry around with you, then the iPad Pro 11-inch is the right size to get. Now, additionally, I love to take notes. I have a notebook in which I make notes. The challenge with that is I have several notebooks and I don't know where those notes are. Usually when I make a note as well, I sometimes forget to add the date. And then when I need to find those notes that I got, it can be a little bit challenging. With the iPad Pro 11-inch, I use this as well to take myself some notes. And this actually is the perfect size to take notes. It blocks out the palm. It only does the input that you take in from the Apple Pencil. So the 11-inch iPad Pro for me was a no-brainer. Plus, of course, you get to save quite a bit of money on what it is that you're looking to save and what it is that you're looking to buy. Now, I actually went for the 64 gigabyte variant simply because I've always had, in the past, 16 gigabyte iPads. So this is already 4 times more space, and it's not going to be the machine that I use for an everyday, for absolutely everything, because there are some things that still it can't do as well. However, that gap is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. What does it depend on? What does the change depend on? Well, iOS 13. I hope that iOS 13, when it comes out this year in June, is going to really make this able to do everything that I can do on a MacBook Pro just as well, just as good, just as fast. Now, some of you may know this if you're really into this kind of techscape, some of you may not, but last year at Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference event, they actually announced the ability to build an app for a Mac to be able to be ported to Android and to iOS. Ooh, we don't want to do Android. To iOS, and then from iOS you can develop an app and move that over to Mac OS. I've got Android on the brain right now. If you can just imagine the apps that we all know and love on site on our Mac, which runs really, really well, being updated and being improved to run really, really well on the iPad, we can start to see how the applications can start to be incredibly powerful on the iPad Pro. With a keyboard, you can actually have your daily driver to be your iPad Pro. Now, the iPad Pro, for me, absolutely needs this keyboard. The smaller keyboard, I've tried playing with it. I probably need to get the case at some point However, for me personally, I like having the physical space to type that I get from the Magic Keyboard. This, once you turn it on, within 5 seconds perhaps, it's already connected to the iPad Pro. And further to that, the size is a full-size keyboard, so I don't have to necessarily sacrifice any typing experience because I'm using the iPad Pro. It's almost the same size as a full keyboard, but it's not, and that can make a difference. And the battery life of the Magic Keyboard, I've had this keyboard since November, perhaps October, and I've used it on a daily basis, and to this date I've probably charged it 2 or 3 times. So the battery life is phenomenal. It's absolutely great. You're definitely not going to be charging this thing every night. It's very power efficient, and it's very good to use on a daily basis. So the iPad Pro 11-inch for me is absolutely completed with this. This means that when I want to do something a little bit more detailed, I can then use this. An example of this, of course, number one is taking notes. I can take really nice notes using this as if I was writing on paper. That's amazing. And I can search it, and I can look for the date, and I can actually put on there information which I can then search for with the intelligent searches that different applications have that allow it to actually read my handwriting, even my handwriting that is really poor. But additional to that, this is really good for using software like LumaFusion for you to be able to edit the video that you're producing. This video has been recorded on an iPhone X using the natural native camera that comes with the phone and natural lighting that we have right now at 11:48 a.m. This is the absolute best time for lighting, so I'm trying to take advantage of that. And then I go into LumaFusion, and then I'll be editing it with inside LumaFusion and then sharing it to YouTube. So this allows me to go there a little bit more granular. And if you want to play around with GarageBand and other types of applications, this is a great application, or a great stylus, if you like to call it a stylus, but it just feels a little bit more than that. The way that it connects, the way that it charges, the precision that it has, the way that the different apps are built in with it. I love the double tap for different functions and different buttons. So this, with this, makes this incredibly powerful. Now, my MacBook Pro that I have, a Retina 13-inch MacBook Pro, I have had since 2014 or 2015, but it was a 2014 model. So this year it's 5 years old. It's still amazing. It's still running incredibly strong, but there is absolutely no denying that the Geekbench scores show that the MacBook Pro that I have, when I've done the actual Geekbench score on the device, is not as powerful as my iPad Pro, which means things are really fast on this thing. And obviously, as we know, with Apple, everything is built in so that the software and the hardware is a perfect marriage. It means that things just don't slow down and they just keep going. So the iPad Pro 11-inch, as you can see, is an absolutely beautiful device. That screen is absolutely gorgeous, and the way that it connects to the Apple Pencil is just amazing. Now, let's say that the only thing that I would say that you need to be very, very much aware of is that when you use the iPad Pro, there are some things you can't do. So for example, I use Elementor. We build websites for clients all around the world, and Elementor is not something I can manipulate currently in the iPad Pro. Then there are other things like Freshdesk or Freshworks. The apps are okay, they're good, but they're infinitely better inside the actual web browser. So I do tend to do that within my MacBook Pro. But when it comes to communication with people, which is something I'm doing a lot more of with time, when it comes to using Slack or using Flock, when it comes to using Skype, when it comes to making phone calls, when it comes to getting the information, when it comes to giving feedback, when it comes to taking notes, this is becoming quickly my primary device. I have spent entire days just using this, and it is great. Currently, it isn't yet at that level where I could only work on this every single day and no longer use my MacBook Pro, but, and this is a big but, if I'm leaving my house and I'm gonna go and work from Lid House, which is the new place we're going to be moving to and working from, whether I'm working from Juan Valdez or working from a coffee shop, this will, with this, be enough. With these two items, I can do everything I need to do, keep in touch with everything. Now, there is something absolutely amazing about this, and that is the way the operating system currently works. It means you're actually able to focus purely on one app a lot easier. What I've also started to do really is turn off applications. Applications have become a pain. I have applications set up from really key areas. So in Slack, in particular channels, particularly when I mentioned, I get a notification. Otherwise, I don't want to know because there's just so many notifications. I went through a period where you can see that I have had thousands of notifications in a day, and that's just not sustainable. So one of the things that I have found with the iPad Pro, because of the way that it's built and the way that it's made, and the way that it requires you to really focus on what it is that you're doing, I can actually get done a lot more in one software at a time than if I was trying to do multiple bits of software and getting distracted from multiple different places. So in summary, the iPad Pro, without a doubt, is an absolutely amazing device. Now, I would like to be able to make sure that I recommend to you some apps that I'm using. Now, as you can see in my home screen, and what I'm actually going to do right now is I'm going to put record onto my home screen, and then afterwards in the edit, I'm going to try and put this into the screen. So I'm going to move a little bit to here,